Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third of our series of interviews, finding out about the different options available to lawyers. And today we're meeting Melissa Moyle from Dorsey Whitney in London, who's going to share a bit with us, I hope, about the highs and lows of reaching partnership and then the highs and lows of actually doing the job as well. So we can learn from Melissa. And as part of this series, I've very purposely had a female partner, and in a couple of weeks' time we've got a male partner, because I know that potentially, people can say that the routes and things might be different, might be harder, might be easier, I don't know, but at least as part of the series we're going to be hearing from both male and female partners, so hopefully we get the two views as well. So I'm going to hand over to Melissa in a second to introduce herself, to tell us a little bit perhaps about her background and how she's got to where she is now. And maybe just to tell us a little bit about Dorsey and Whitney as well, if that's all right, Melissa, for those who haven't come across you before.
Of course. Okay. So hi, everybody. My name is Melissa Moyle. I'm a partner in the real estate group in Dorsey and Whitney. I'm based in the London office. We're quite a small team here in London. Our head office is in Minneapolis in Minnesota, but we've got offices throughout the US, including New York, Seattle, Salt Lake City, Palo Alto, Southern California. We've also got offices in Hong Kong and China. So that's where our main practice areas are focused. I originally started out at Freshfields. I was a trainee there for 2 years and stayed until I was a 4-year PQE solicitor before making the move to an American firm, which a lot of my colleagues were doing at the time. It seemed to be very much in vogue. This was about 2007, 2008. And I've been here ever since. It was quite a shift going from Freshfields. I really enjoyed working there. I had really good experience. I had great colleagues. I learned a lot. It was really great working on these big deals that you could see on the front of the Financial Times every day. But moving to a US law firm where the office was much smaller was quite a big culture shock for me. You didn't have the support, you didn't have the photocopying facilities, for example, or the post room guys. There were less support staff. You actually had to take a lot more work on yourself. You had a lot more responsibility as well. So, you didn't have maybe as many people in your team. You had to work longer hours when it was busier. But actually I learned a lot more. It was quite a big learning curve. And you just learn to grow up a lot more, because I think at Freshfields I was just used to people maybe checking my work, whereas here you had a partner if you needed to ask a question, but you just sort of had to, excuse the phrase, put your big girl pants on and just get on with it and do the work. But I really enjoyed it, and I think you're either the person who's going to thrive in that kind of environment or you're not. But I've stayed here. I've been here 11 years now, and the office has changed quite a bit. We're one of the offices targeted for growth in the future. And I've just been appointed co-lead on the marketing and client development side here in London. And we're going to be working closely with the other offices in the network. So that's quite a big profile role for me as well, and probably involve a lot more work and a lot more travel. But there you go. It's got to be done.
Oh, no, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Did you, interestingly, it sounds like you moved to Dorsey and Whitney almost just before the recession, the troubles and things. Do you think US firms fared that any differently? Did you notice going through?
Well, when I moved, it was June 2008. Because because I was trying to tie it into my daughter's birth. So she was born July 2006. I was back at Freshfields for a year. And then I moved June 2008. And we were really busy here actually for another 12 months. So even though a lot of my friends and other firms were talking about how quiet it was, I was actually really busy. And then the work just dropped off a cliff. And the whole firm worldwide suffered. Obviously, it wasn't just like a London or a New York or Minneapolis phenomenon. And how they dealt with it was quite, I think a lot of UK firms did it as well, but we all took a 10% pay cut. And they didn't make any redundancies. So that for me was a really good thing. It's quite a collegiate firm. They're not as ruthless as other US law firms, I guess, is the way I say it. It's very collegiate atmosphere. People tend to look after each other. And they do care about their employees and their staff and their partners as well, because, it's a people business and it's about developing that and letting it grow. And then that was just for 6 months, and then everybody went back onto the normal salary. But it very much affected, I guess, the way people thought about how, recruitment. They're probably we're more careful now about who we take on and what areas we expand. But actually, I think that's probably common from a lot of law firms. I have friends who are partners in other law firms or in-house same. You've seen the in-house function probably grow more, and the private practice shrink a lot more. I mean, you know, things are still quite good in the city, I think, despite Brexit, but there's definitely people look at their business strategy more and don't just grow for the growth's sake, which I think was a fun phenomenon before the credit crunch.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hopefully law firms have learned a lot from what happened in those times.
You know, I worked in real estate, which was one of the massively affected areas, and I had lots of good friends that I had worked with or had gone to university and college with, and they lost their jobs because there just was no work, and they were excellent lawyers, would have been partners before, but some of them have gone off and done completely different things, or have come back into law, or, you know, have done something and have been very successful just in ways that maybe they didn't think was possible, and actually gave them the opportunity to do something completely different. So it just shows you that when you think maybe your world's crashing down around you, there are always other options out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We could totally end the interview on that point, couldn't we? But no, I have more questions for you. So tell us about, because I think you've been a partner for about a year now at Dorsey, haven't you? Tell us a bit about that process. You know, perhaps when did you sort of either decide to go for partnership, or were you invited to? You know, was there a long lead in? Was there a lot you had to do? That sort of thing.
Well, for me, I was obviously a bit more senior. My friends and I always call ourselves the Latham Lost generation, you know, because we always thought we'd be partners at about 7 years qualified. I mean, that was just probably the start of arrogance of youth. You just thought it was going to be very straightforward. So I think people are a lot more senior now, certainly in some of the firms that I've come into contact with, than you would have been in the past. I was made special counsel before I was made partner. But it was made clear that I was not being shunted off the partnership path, that I was going to stay on it. And that was very important for me as well. I didn't want to be seen as just somebody that was going to be parked there and then passed by somebody else. But other people choose to do that. So you do have the option of maybe being made counsel because you're quite happy with doing the work. You don't want necessarily the extra work or business development that you might have to do as a partner. So there are those options to do it. So I was special counsel, I can't remember now, I think it was 2 or 3 years before I was made up. And the process is the same. It's quite a different one because they have what they call the PPC, which are representatives from each office in the network. And they have conference calls that last about 5 or 7 hours. And they discuss every single associate in the firm. And they go through your partnership prospects, and they decide quite early on in the year whether you're going to be put forward or not. And a lot of it is a business case scenario, which is why originally I was made special counsel, because there just wasn't room for me to move up. And then when the opportunity comes forward, you have to do the same. You fill in practice profile, you have a business plan, you have also a business development plan. It's not just about your ability to draft or to do the work. It's also about what else you're going to bring to the firm and how you're going to develop the business, bring in new clients, raise the profile, because that's one of the main focuses of a small US office in London, because there's just so many competitors. How you're going to do something differently. So I didn't have to have an interview, but I did have to rehome my business plan. I had to have lengthy meetings with my representatives here. I had to get every partner in the London office to agree that they wanted me to be a partner. So I wasn't allowed to annoy anybody for at least a year. That was quite tricky. No, I'm really joking. They're very, very supportive. But I had to go through all of that. And then it has to go through to the PPC committee in the US, which is based in Minneapolis, but obviously all the offices are involved. And then we have what's called a management committee and a policy committee. So all the applications have to go through there as well. And the good thing is, because we're quite a small office, everybody knows everybody else. So I knew quite a lot of the senior partners. I'd done a lot of work for a lot of their clients. So a lot of it is about raising your profile beforehand. So not just thinking about doing the hours and getting the work. It's about getting people in the firm to know you, to know that you're a safe pair of hands, that clients like you, that you can add to the business, that you're not just going to sit there and be a taker. You have to give back as well. So it's an interesting process. I mean, I've had friends in other firms who obviously have to do completely different rounds, and they have to go for interviews, but because they know you, they don't feel they have to do that quite so much. So it's like your whole working life is nearly a test. Does that make sense? Mm. That makes it sound really onerous. It's not at all, but they know you really well, so they feel that they can judge you.
Well, to me, that would see, I mean, I've always said that would be the way that if it was up to me, I would do partnerships, well, and any promotions, in fact, because surely that makes the most sense. You know, they've seen you do your work, they've seen you with clients, they've seen you manage people, manage budgets, all that sort of thing. You know, it's better to see that than just have an interview, isn't it?
Very true. And I think because I was a senior real estate lawyer anyway, I'd done I had to do a lot of stuff myself. I had my own business plan for quite a while. The partner who had been here previously that I worked with was really helpful, really supportive. You know, he would let me do my own billing, to look at budgets, to have massive input. So maybe I had the benefit of more experience than other people might have had in that position before. So it does help when you've got people who are looking after you and who've got your back. And certainly the partners here were very supportive, and they helped me with my business plan. You know, partners who had done it before and were very supportive about it. And the fact that I had a family outside the office was irrelevant. You know, they don't care how or where you do your work, as long as you do it well and you meet the deadlines. So it's really a great culture that certainly works for me.
Absolutely. And I love the point you made, in case anybody missed it, that now it's gone out of my head what I was going to say. But no, it was the point that it's not just the year perhaps that you decide to go for promotion, it's a longer term raising your profile internally. So getting to know people who are going to support you. So it's probably something that you want to be starting almost years before, even maybe before you've made the decision that you're actually going to go for it. Just part of a general developing your career, that you take those steps to become known to other people who could be your champions, mentors, supporters, those sorts of things.
Exactly. And I think people forget about internal PR. It's very important. And sometimes people will have a perception of you from something that happened years ago, and you won't know it. Or there may be an issue which is minor, or something that they've misunderstood, or they've heard third hand and it suddenly has become fact. And it's very important to make sure people know who you are and what you do.
Yeah. No, I think that's really, really good point to make. It's not a case of, right, this year I'm going to go for promotion. It's more planning ahead, thinking about what you need to do in the lead up to it. So tell us about the pros and cons of being a partner. What are the good bits? What are the bad bits?
Well, the pros are definitely you get more responsibility, which I quite enjoy, quite thrive. I have a few different roles as well as the marketing. I look after the office training, and I also look after, with another partner here, the mentoring scheme that we've got in place. And I think that's really important, because I was a junior lawyer, and I had what in fresh fields we called it the buddy system when you were more junior. I don't know if they still do it now, but it was really useful. It was somebody you could give feedback to. And then we moved here as well. I would have some of the partners take me on as their unofficial mentee. Just, give me a pep talk every now and again and things like that. So I thought, as a partner, it's really important. And it's important. We already did it in other offices in the firm. So we introduced a program here a couple of years ago, which is really good. So I really enjoy work like that. And I think it's important for the junior lawyers to feel part of the firm. I like that I know where the business, more about the business, more about the people. Developing relationships within the office is very important. I really like, this is going to sound a bit, I don't know how this is going to sound, but when you get the partner thing below your name, people treat you differently. And I'm not talking within the office, I'm talking about clients, which is ridiculous, because you think I'm doing the same work that I was doing yesterday. I've just got this title below it. But it makes it much easier for you to sell yourself. So for me, it's been much easier going out to events or networking dues or just clients. They just treat you with, even though I'm a younger woman, that doesn't really bother them too much, I don't think. But they do treat you with a level of respect that maybe they didn't have before. So I really do enjoy all of that. It can be challenging at times. I suppose the flip side of it is that you then have to worry about bringing in work, dealing with difficult clients. If there are any issues, be that in the office or outside the office, you do have to deal with them. Sometimes there's tricky situations come up that maybe you've got staff that aren't performing at the level they should be, or if you've got trainee solicitors, whether you're able to keep them on or not, and you have to make business cases. So I think that side of the business is probably a bit more challenging, because, I think I would be quite an empathetic person, and I just sometimes feel for the individual, but know that for the sake of the business, that difficult decisions have to be made. So I think that's probably one of the things that is harder for me. So I think that's just something I have to sort of grit my teeth on and just get on with it. As you know, it's part. Everybody has to do it if they run a business. It's the same. But I mean, I do enjoy my job. I love getting up in the morning and coming into work. And I think the day that finishes, or that that changes, then that's the day I need to think, do I really want to be doing this anymore?
Oh yeah, that's brilliant. I love that answer. What sort of, I mean, you've touched on it there, I think, but what sort of person do you think makes a good partner? Now, I do appreciate that different firms, partnership means different things, but you know, where you are and what you've seen with your friends and peers and things, what sort of person probably should go for partnership? But let's be controversial. Who should go for partnership and who shouldn't be going for partnership, do you think?
Well, it will depend a lot on the firm you're in and who you're working with, what area of law you're practicing in, I think as well is very important. But you'd be amazed at the amount of people who think they should be a partner and they definitely should not be a partner, and the amount of people who don't have the confidence to think they could be a partner and they definitely could be. I think a lot of people get confused between technical ability and your ability to make business decisions or to think outside the box. It's not always, am I doing a good real estate technical work, or am I actually thinking more broadly? So I think you've got to be quite resilient, and you do have to have thick skin. Now, thick skin isn't necessarily, that means that you have to be rude and obnoxious or arrogant. It's more about dealing with people, and you will get the brunt of people's anger or frustration, be that staff, be that support staff or associates or people in the office or clients. You know, you've got clients who aren't always going to be happy, and as a partner you're the one that has to take the brunt of that frustration, be it in relation to the deal hasn't gone the way they think it has, or they maybe have had an issue with somebody in your team, or they're just having a bad day sometimes, I think, you know, and you have to be as different as a particular type of person to deal with that and not take it personally. You also need to have empathy, though, I think, at the same time, because you are dealing with people and people's lives and people's money. I mean, you know, I know money isn't the be all and end all, but, you know, there's sometimes when you're dealing with a particular sum, you think, oh my goodness, I am dealing with this amount of money. This is somebody's livelihood. This is their business. So I just think you need to be quite a strong character, but that doesn't necessarily mean overbearing. It's just quietly confident in yourself, have belief. And I think it's just very important to not get carried away with thinking you're the be all and end all of everything, because it's very much working as a team. I think some people think that you have to be a strong individual, but actually it's more about working with other people, a collaborative, you know, and you can see the law firms that have been really successful are the law firms that think like that and enact that as well.
Yes, definitely. I think that's really, really true. You mentioned people who should be going for partnership, but they don't for whatever reason. What do you see? What's holding people back who perhaps should be going for it, do you think?
Well, I find a lot of people who are they're very good lawyers, you know, they're very good with clients, they have a lot of confidence, they have a lot of ability, but they don't have the self-confidence to believe in themselves, or they keep second guessing, thinking, oh, I'm not partner material, or I'm not good enough yet, but I will be at some stage. And, you know, I try to talk to them and say, you know, somebody else in your position isn't going to be saying this. They're going to be saying, they're great, I'm brilliant, you should be hiring me, I'm the one that you should be giving the work to, I'm the one that deserves that position. But actually, maybe they don't have the goods to back it up. And actually, if you're not good enough to be partner, and it's not that you're not good enough to be partner, that's not quite the right way to phrase it, I think. If you don't maybe make it, and maybe you might not make it the first time, but you'll make it the second time, or you'll make it at a different firm where you might fit better, or they will fit better for you, I suppose, the way to look at it. Doesn't mean that just because somebody's confident means they're going to get it. Mm-hmm. You know, I just think that sometimes you just got to trust yourself, and if it feels right, just go for it. But if you're in an environment where you're not getting the backup and the support, you've got to think, is this the right role for me, and should I really be here? Maybe I would work better somewhere else. But it's not to be, I think it's not something that happens automatically. And I think sometimes, I mean, certainly I did when I was at law school. I just thought, you know, you sailed through private practice, you did your training contract, you did your 7 years as a associate in whatever discipline you decided to go into, and then you'd be a partner. that's just the way it works. And actually, when you get into private practice, you realize that actually that's not the way it works. And do you really want to be doing this? So I think everybody changes throughout their life. And certainly when I look at the 22-year-old me that came to the city, you know, I wouldn't recognize her now, really. But that's what makes us the people we are now. So I'd recognize some aspects of her, just not the face in the mirror, maybe.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. No, I think that's so true. I think, you know, all of us probably as students, law students, and then trainees, and even as NQs, we thought our path was mapped out for us. And, you know, that was before, you know, 2008, 2009, when things changed a lot anyway. But even then, you know, we thought our path was mapped out. And, you know, sometimes it's not for everybody. Like you've said, there are some people who perhaps it doesn't suit and something else might suit, or, you know, the opportunity just doesn't come up or something. And I think it is important for people to be able to think outside the box, I guess, and not to think that's the be all and end all. So I suppose that's, you know, that's the other sort of reason for this series, is to show people that there are many, many different ways that your career can look. It doesn't have to just be one fixed path. Especially, you know, for those who it perhaps either doesn't happen for, or actually they get close to it or even reach it and then think this isn't what I want anymore.
Yeah, I've known partners who, I know one in particular, I better not say where he worked or anything like that, just in case somebody might recognize him, but it was a magic circle for him, and he was a partner for 10 years, and he basically made enough money to pay off his house and his family's house, you know, like his brothers, sisters, mothers, all that kind of stuff. And then made enough money, and he just decided he didn't want to do it anymore. And, you know, a lot of the other partners were like, because he was questioning their lifestyle, he just thought, you know, I've done it, I've proved myself, and actually I don't want to do this anymore. And I see him every now and again. He's just having a great life, you know, but he's happy. He didn't need to be a partner for 20 or 30 years. He done what he needed to do, and he left. So there's different roles for everybody in life.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's not too controversial to ask, do you, being a woman, having gone through the partnership process, I mean, I suppose you can only answer at your firm, did you see any difference going through the process as a woman versus the men going through the process, or did you not notice anything with your firm?
I really didn't notice at all. I mean, we have the same issue that a lot of firms have. We have less female partners. We see that, you know, as they go up the ranks, we have a lot of female associates to start with, and then it seems to dwindle off as they get more senior. But that's a lot to do with people making lifestyle choices, and it is hard to work in a corporate firm if you've got a young family and both parents work. It is very hard to juggle it and to manage it, especially where you might be working on deals where you're expected to work very late into the night, or be in early in the morning and work through the day. And, you know, there are just issues there. But as for the process itself, I didn't feel any difference at all. And I mean, I have never worked part-time or taken fixed hours or done the thing where you work 9 to 5 and then work from home at night. I had decided I wasn't going to do that. But then I was lucky in that my husband, you know, had a job where he was on fixed hours, so I could generally do the drop off in the morning and he would do the pick up in the evening. So I didn't need to be away at night. So, you know, my situation is not going to be the same as everybody else's, and I appreciate that people have difficulties. But I have never experienced any form of discrimination here, certainly in this firm, that me being a woman is a disadvantage in any way. Apart from, you know, my ability to talk too much, but I think that's just me rather than the fact I'm a female. But certainly, but I mean, it's not the experience that everybody has had, and I do know of peers and, you know, former colleagues or people I've gone to university with. Unfortunately, that is not the experience that some of them have had. But I am very lucky where I work, and that they do value diversity. So it's not just a female thing, but it's, you know, they're looking at the ethnic minority makeups of the firm, and that, you know, we need to be more diverse. And I think as a US firm, they are very much onto that. It's a very big thing for them right now. And it's not even that they just want to be seen to be doing it, they actually want to do it. So I think, you know, it's a good thing to be a woman at the minute.
Oh, excellent. I like that.
I certainly enjoy being a woman.
No, absolutely. Well, I mean, there are natural traits of women that lead themselves very well to what you were saying about one of the traits for being a partner. You know, that empathy, that ability to sort of manage your team and look after people and things. You know, obviously, being a woman, there's a lot of traits there that are really useful for that.
Yeah, it's another perspective, you know, and it's the same with, even there are 4 women in my office now that are partners, and we all look at things differently. You know, we're not all the same, so you don't put it. And it's the same with the male partners. You know, if you're in a partner meeting, everybody has different opinions. You're just bringing maybe different life experiences, which is only a good thing, because, you know, we don't want our generation of kids going up where it's still, you know, I don't agree with quotas, but, you know, you still want something that looks a bit like real life. You know, we're 50% of the population, so it should be a bit more, I think.
Absolutely. And we're over 50% of the incoming solicitors as well. So, you know, it's got to change.
I like that. I'm going to bring that up at the next meeting.
Oh, yeah. I forget if it's 50.2 or 52% or something. But yes, we're around the 50% mark, or certainly over 50%. So what advice would you give to younger lawyers right now who are... I've sort of said from the sort of 5-year PQE up mark, because I think that's the time when you've sort of settled into whatever your area is. You've sort of started your career, probably about the time you sort of moved on and you made a change as well. It's that sort of, right, this is my career, this is what I'm doing, but what does the future look like for me? So they're at that sort of stage. Have you got advice for people who are there?
Well, I suppose, looking at it from my perspective, I just got a phone call one day when I was 4 years PQE. That was it. It wasn't something that I was thinking, right, I need to leave or I want to leave. It's just one of those things that sometimes happens. And it was a stage where you think about where you're working, where you're going to be. And I had been thinking about that a lot. What did I want to do in the future? At that time, the real estate group in Freshfields was really big. So there were a lot of us ahead, below, same level as me. Where was it going to be in the future? There'd been talk about it slimming it down more. And did I want to go to a US firm? Did I want to go to a smaller UK firm? Did I want to go in-house? But at that stage, I definitely didn't want to go in-house. I knew that I wanted to stay in private practice. And I had a lot of friends who had made the move to the US law firms. And it was a very attractive proposition. But then further down the line, I did think about moving in-house. And I looked at job opportunities that came up. And because, you know, the world of in-house, I think, has changed a lot, certainly since I was an NQ, when, you know, some of my friends did jump straight into in-house roles where it was seen as very much a support function. It was like you'd given up. It was like that you couldn't cope with private practice. You know, that's why you ended up in-house, because you couldn't handle the pressure. I mean, that was very much the attitude when I was a junior lawyer. Whereas even though I haven't made the move in-house or into business, I mean, I have a lot of friends who have, and they have been others always, you know, big sit in the boards, move into the business side of things. There's just so many options now that I think certainly when I was a junior, people really didn't think about. So I think if you're at that 4 or 5 year mark and you're thinking about what you should do next, the first thing I would say is don't rush into anything. Take a long time to consider it. I mean, if you're completely miserable and you don't like going into work every day, obviously I'm not saying you should sit there for a year and think about what you're going to do. I mean, I think you should address that sharpish rather than to leave it lingering, because you can get into a whole world of worries otherwise. But if you've got the time to think about it, I would really sit down and think, do you want to do private practice? Do you want to move in-house? Are you interested in the business side of things? I mean, as lawyers now, we're told to think more about what our clients want, what their businesses do, rather than just the pure legal advice, which obviously we have to give as well. And if you really enjoy that side of it, then maybe that is something that you could do in the future. Or if you want to go for partner, you could go for partner. If you make partnership, it doesn't mean you have to stay a partner for the rest of your life. And I've had friends who have been partners and have moved into GC roles or have just quit and set up their own business. So the world really is your oyster. But I think one thing I would say is sometimes the grass isn't always greener. So just because you've been having a bad day or a bad week, you should just sit and think about it and think about what you need. So, you know, do you need the money? Do you need the challenge from the work that you're having? How it will fit in with your lifestyle? Everybody's life lifestyle and their environment is different than everybody else's. So just don't be swayed by peer pressure either, I think. And because there's a lot of, why are you going there? Why are you giving up? It's, everybody has to think about it in their own circumstances and what they want to get and where they want to be in the future. You don't live to work, you work to live.
That's fantastic advice. That's really
it's something I've come from a background, my parents worked really long hours, and I remember my mum saying, on your deathbed, nobody ever says, I wish I'd spent more time in the office. So.
Yeah, well, it's an old adage, isn't it? But there's a book out, I keep meaning to find the name of it. There's a nurse who's written a book out because she's worked at the sort of end of life stage with people, and she literally did people's time with my family. I should have done the things that I love. It's those things.
And even if you don't have a family, there are other considerations, like if you're really into sport or you're really into music or you want to travel, you want to go to the theater, these are factors that you need to think about it. And also flexible working, we can work from home because you've got a hobby that's near your home. You should be able to do that. It shouldn't just be revolving around the fact that you've got kids, which, it's about everybody.
Yeah. Oh, I love that they can work from home. Well, that they work from home, even when it's a hobby or a sport, not the...
I don't think they advertise that, maybe, but I mean, that's how I would look at it. Why would I do an hour in and an hour back home if I want to be at my Pilates or yoga?
Well, absolutely.
I haven't done it.
Yeah. No, when I was in normal practice, it was you can work from home if you're having a washing machine delivered.
I know. Even then, they didn't like it, though, did they?
Oh no! Are you sure could your neighbour not sign for your washing machine? But yeah, no. Times are changing, definitely, which is great to hear. So tell us a little bit about your new role. So you're joint marketing lead for...
Yeah, so this is with Hannah Nathanson, who has joined Dorsey actually at the start of this year. She was originally at Brian Cave, which obviously now part of BCLP, they call themselves these days. So we had a marketing partner who has left, and we were appointed to the role, and it's just to rejig it a wee bit and to give it more of a global focus. And to give it a bit more energy. I mean, it's very easy because marketing, sometimes you think, just marketing for the marketing's sake. But it's to give it a bit more impetus. So we've got a marketing committee in the office now. We've got a marketing plan, which is quite exciting. And we've identified offices that we're going to be working closely with. So we have a lot of work with China and Hong Kong. Obviously, Minneapolis is our head office in New York, but the idea then will be to roll it out across the office network, because obviously each office is doing their own thing. But it's easy sometimes to get complacent about what you're doing and what clients you're doing work for. And a lot of it is to do with internal promotion as well, how we can work together better as colleagues, how we can cross-refer work, how we can cross-sell. I'm in the middle of organising an event in our New York office that's organised through a network that we sponsor here in London. So there's lots of things that we maybe haven't done in the past, but we're trying to do it more. And you see it like other larger firms do it very effectively, like the Lathams and, I'm trying to think of some of the other big firms like Fried Frank, places like that, or the Clearys. They just cross-sell really well. And Dorsey's just trying to reinvigorate doing that as well, although obviously we get a lot of work from our clients in the US already. It's just trying to make sure that we're all singing from the same hymn sheet. But it's actually a lot more work than I thought it was going to be, which isn't bad. It's quite interesting. And I've got to meet quite a few people in the firm that actually even I hadn't met. And I'm quite good at introducing myself at partner conference people and sitting beside them, even if they don't want me to sit beside them. But it's all about just making sure that the office and also the associates are getting involved with it. The committee is Helen and myself and a couple of associates, but everybody will be involved in the drive and just about getting re-engaged and a bit re-energized. And I think everybody gets a bit focused on Brexit and the fact that the corporate markets maybe aren't as busy as everybody would like them to be. But, it will come to an end at some stage. Who knows when, but it will. And we just want to be ready to go when it does.
Mm. Yeah. Do you, I mean, because sometimes perhaps when you tell people, oh, I'm a partner, I'm doing this, and now I've taken on this extra role and things, do sometimes people ever sort of look at you and go, you must be crazy taking on all this stuff?
I think they do. But I say I don't mind it because I just see it as a bit of more of a challenge. Sometimes when you're busy and you've got a lot of chargeable work to do, or client meetings, you think, oh God, do I really have to do this now? And somebody's under you, with documents under your nose that you need to look at or sign off out of budget. But actually, I quite enjoy it. I quite enjoy the social aspect of it. I like meeting new people. I like the thought of, having targets, trying to grow the business. And then you understand more of it as well, because as a new partner, there's a lot to get to grips with. So actually by doing this, I can see what we do really well, where we could develop further, what my role could be in that as well. And it's just maybe not thinking about just the corporate and litigation part of the practice, but the other areas that we work in, the other parts of the world that we work in. I did a roadshow there a couple of months ago in our Montana office in Missoula and Bozeman, which is down beside Yellowstone National Park, which is beautiful. But we have massive tech groups there that we do work for. And then I went on to our Seattle office, their offices that you wouldn't necessarily visit that much. So it's just getting to know other people and connecting with them. So I think maybe in the past, people probably sat back too much, they expected work to come in through. I'm not talking about here, I'm just talking about firms generally. People would trade on their reputation and the fact that they just had, the top 100 FTSE index, the clients just walked in through the door. It's just not the way of the world now anymore. People want to get good value for money as well as good advice. So it's just about making sure that we're up there with it. So yeah, back to your question, which I've just completely digressed from, but the hours are probably longer with it a bit, but I quite enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, you, and the bit there where you say you digress, I was actually about to say, well, people think we planned this, because that goes next onto my sort of question stroke point that I had, which is, I think maybe in the past, and maybe some people still now, get very focused on just their job, their role. This is what I'm doing, head down, get on with my work and things. Whereas I personally think, and I've seen with other people, they can enjoy their job and their role much more if they do bring in some of these outside things, do things that are different to just the sort of everyday job.
Yeah, I agree. And it makes it more varied. So you're not thinking, oh, what lease am I going to do today? Or what sale contract? Or what redevelopment am I looking at today? There is something different to do. But it's also, it does impact on everybody, and you've got to think about yourself as part of that team, part of that firm. You're not working in a silo. You're not like a sole practitioner who just goes into their office and feeds work to associates as and when necessary. You've got to feed into the firm ethos and what they're trying to do. And we do, and there are a lot of other things as well as the marketing. They encourage pro bono work. They encourage partners and associates to take on roles in organizations outside the firm. So, for example, I'm a trustee on a charity based in South London, so I can leave to go to board, the trustee meetings and things. And they really encourage you to do that. You get credit for it in your time recording, and talk about it in your appraisal. So, it's not just about doing the work. It's about, giving back and doing things for the firm, not just for yourself. And I think as lawyers, sometimes it's very easy to get distracted when you get your quarterly figures or your hours or whatever it is that you're looking at. And associates is the same. You look at your hours and that's what a lot of firms base your value on that. But there's so much more that you add and bring to it. And I think it's very easy just to lose sight of that in the in the numbers game. But it's always about the bigger picture, I think.
Yeah.
No system's perfect, that you've got to be measured on something. And if you're not financially successful, well, you're not going to survive. But there's just more to it than that, and that should bring the financial rewards with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's brilliant. So my last question is something that is very close to my heart is the mental health and well-being of lawyers. What do you do to look after yourself and maybe your team as well? What are your tips for looking after mental health, happiness and well-being?
Well, especially if you're working for me, one of my big things is I don't believe in FaceTime. So if somebody's in the office at 5 or 6 o'clock and they have no work to do, I will go into them and say, what are you doing here? You should be going home. It's different if they've got work. That's a slightly different issue. But we try not to keep people in the office for the sake of it. We try not to cancel holidays or leave. It's difficult sometimes, but it's very much, the partners should and do take the work on their shoulders as and when needed. Like I like to go out and see my friends. I think it's very important to spend time with your family. I have a book club that I'm a member of, and that is actually school mums from the primary school that my daughter was at. We had one last week. That often turns into a wine, gin and book club. But it's really important to get out and to see friends and to remember that you have a life outside the office. And unfortunately, I don't really have time for hobbies because I seem to be my daughter's taxi driver all the time at the minute. But I used to run until I injured my leg, so it's very important to do things like that. So now I have to go for slower walks because I'm just not. I don't think I can run on my knee at the minute the way it is. But that's how I generally would have relaxed more in the past. I would have got up early and went for a run. But we try to encourage the associates to do the same. Like some of them may go to the gym during their lunch break, or they may go in the morning. And we have social events. We obviously have a Christmas summer party. We try to have quarterly drinks in the kitchen. We have client events that they come along to do, which sometimes turn more into Dorsey events. But I think it's very important. I mean, we have emphasis as well in the workplace that we try not to make all the social events to be around the pub, which maybe it did when I was a junior, because we don't want people to feel excluded if they don't drink or if they don't want to drink. So it's quite tricky to get the balance right because you want to keep everybody happy. But we have a big emphasis on people, if they're not feeling great, they have to go and talk to somebody. If they feel like they're struggling or they can't cope, there are 2 nominated partners who are on the PPC that they should go and speak to if they're having any concerns. But they all have a mentor, and that should be the person if they're really struggling and they feel they can't talk to anybody else. Hopefully they will go and talk to them. We don't want people struggling. We don't want them, drowning under work, or maybe they have pressures outside work. Maybe they don't want to discuss it with us, but we can refer them to people who can help them. And it's a really big focus. They're rolling out a big program in Minneapolis actually at the minute, where they have seminars and different things for people, coping strategies sometimes, or the people, so there should be a section where it's, and I think we're going to introduce it here, where they signpost people to relevant services that they can subscribe to, or that they should take time out. It's very important for us as partners that we don't see people struggling and ending up in a bad place. And it's hard to know as well if they don't come and talk to you. So we try to encourage. They don't have to go into full details, and some people aren't comfortable doing that. But if you just maybe raise a marker and say, I've got an issue or I need to discuss this, there's always somebody around to help.
Oh, I'm so pleased to hear it, because again, that's a big shift in probably more recent years, because the stigma historically in law around struggling and not being able to cope has been huge, and I'm sure in many places is still a big problem. But the more places that I hear that are doing work like you are, that's brilliant.
Yeah, we have a Donuts and Diversity initiative, which I think we do every 2 or 3 months. And it's not just, even though it's called diversity, it's not just about diversity. We had somebody who came in and talked to us about mental health in the workplace at the last one. And it's just about making people more aware, because I think in the past you were just told to toughen up, or that you weren't performing properly and it was your issue. Whereas actually that's counterproductive to everybody, because you're going to have a miserable workforce, or you're going to have people really struggling. So hopefully it's about making people themselves aware, because sometimes you don't realize until you're in the middle of some downward spiral, and it's very, very hard to get out of. So we would always encourage people to come and talk to a sympathetic member of the partnership or the staff. It doesn't have to be a partner. It can be anybody in the office, really.
That's brilliant. I'm so glad to hear it. Thank you so much, Melissa. I've really enjoyed that. And I think there's loads in there that will be really useful for people. So
I hope I didn't ramble too much.
Yeah. Not at all. There were loads of little bits I'm going to go back and listen to. I think there's things we can tweet from that. Some really, really, really good points. So yeah, I really appreciate you making time and also being so honest and open with us as well, because I know that's, sometimes not everybody wants to do that, but it's the way other people can learn and make their decisions in the future is from hearing from people like you. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. It was great. Thank you.
Oh, I will speak to you again soon, I hope.
Thanks, Hannah. Thank you. Bye.
Oh, and to everybody else there, I hope you've enjoyed that interview. If you have got any questions for Melissa, then hopefully she won't mind. If you send them through to me, then I will pop them on an email to Melissa if anything's come up for you when you watch the replay and you'd like to ask her anything. But thank you all very much, and I will speak to you soon. Bye-bye.